Hey, I want to show you a couple of things real quick. I have a Birmingham student who is working on her portrait of her darling little grandson. And she has done some very fine portraits in a rather controlled style. And she, as we all do, we master one thing and we want to do something else. So her mission right now is to loosen up greatly. And so today I demonstrated for her this portrait. I did it the same size as she is working to kind of show her a little bit about laying in the planes of color. You look for the geometry. You'll see kind of geometric shapes, some triangles here and there. Now, I learned, this is what I want to share with you, most of all right this minute. I learned from Daniel Green. I was really lucky. I studied with him twice, and I'm trying to get in a way that I can show you. There are some ridges tonight in my paint. This is it's still very wet. I liked using this substance today. It's Galca Gel by Gamblin, and I literally rubbed it over the surface right in this area, and I worked my paint into it. And what I want to do right this minute is just barely touch these ridges to slightly take the top off the ridge of paint, and then that way, when I'm ready another day to work again on this and refine it maybe a little bit, then I'm not obligated to have certain highs and lows in my paint surface because of, I think you can see this one. See that right in here? I'll have to clean my brush a little bit, but I will just barely touch that and that so that, again, I'm not going to lose all these great edges or the planes that I've created today, but I will take those high points off and be ready to paint again. So I'm real glad Daniel Green taught me that little trick, and it's been very valuable because I like being able to really go to town when I start painting the next time. And if something's not quite in the place that I need it to be, I can just move it. So have fun painting. Bye now. These are the paint colors and the two brushes that I'm using, in case the glare is a little funny. This one is a 4 filbert. This is also a filbert. I really like the filberts. This is a number 6. And I have several colors I'm using out of the John Howard Sanden Pro Mix paints that he has. I have 2 of the colors in here that I'm using out of his on this. So thought that would be helpful. And in the first installment, you will see in the description under the video the first colors I used when I was in class and began the painting. So as I mentioned earlier, this was a demonstration a few days ago in a class of mine, and we reach across here just to dampen the brushes a teeny bit. Okay, and I want to finish it in class this next week, but last night you will have seen already I did a few little refinements in here, and this is my palette, and so I'm going to do a few more tonight so that when I do get to class, I can show my cute folks just how I'm going to finish it up. I want to keep it very loose. This was a demo to show the Impressionistic style, and we sketched it in instead of drawing it with a pencil or charcoal. I love charcoal because it's so fresh, and you can alter your line work and so forth. And anyway, I love that. But I wanted to show them how to sketch in oil with the brush. That was something that I watched my mother do most of my life, and I thought that never in my life would I ever be able to do such a thing. So it was, this was kind of like pressure. You really have to concentrate when you're doing that. I am putting a, this has a bit of yellow in it, and against the pink skin tones, it is a warm it's a little bit different, so it's helping pump up those highlights. Can you kind of see what's happening? It's pretty subtle. It's always interesting to me when I do children how fast you can age a child by skinnying up their cheeks, and I've gotten him just a little bit older, and by adding what should be there on his cheek, it will make him be a little bit younger as he is in the picture. My whole thing, I have always loved the work of Robert Henry, and there's a favorite painting of mine that is in the Birmingham Art Museum that I've gone back to see many times in my lifetime. The freshness and the when I went to Florida State University, there were 2 books that were required reading, and one of them was The Art Spirit by Robert Henry. And I had the greatest treat a few months ago. I was at a luncheon, and I knew we were going to have a really dynamic speaker, and so I was looking forward to it. It was a luncheon, again, at the museum, and I was seated across from a lady that I'd never met, and all of a sudden, in the middle of the lunch, she mentioned Robert Henry, and I just went on alert and said, "Why do you know him?" And it turns out that she and her husband owned the Henry that I have gone to see so many times, and it was fixing to be sent to one of the Scandinavian countries to be on view, and she was leaving on a trip to escort it the next week. So it was great fun to meet her. The title of her talk was I believe it was the stories behind the paintings, and so it was great fun to know how she had come to love and own that that painting. Again, we all have favorites that, if you're an artist or just a lover of art and painting and so forth, there'll always be particular favorites that you might go back and see over and over, and as you grow in your knowledge, it is great fun to see them, and you sort of see them in a different way. And as painters grow, I have learned so much over the years from that particular Robert Henry painting. So if you'd like a good read, you might take the advice of Florida State's art department years and years ago, and read The Art Spirit by Robert Henry for yourself. I read different things when I reread it now, and I do like to read it again if I can. Well, nobody's holding me back, so of course I can if I make the time for it. About every 10 years or so. Okay, this is coming to life a little bit better than where it was earlier. Just kind of refining some of these values. Value is the amount of white in a color. I'm just kind of bringing that up and over, and precious little boy. Just a little touch back in there on that back side of his nose. I kind of lost that. And I think I'll trim this side down a little bit. It's gotten a little bit large. I was working from this black and white photograph, so the coloring is my own design. Hope I'm close. I don't really want much definition on the teeth, but give it a little structure in the mouth. My daddy was a dentist, so of course you need to pay some attention to the teeth. Get a little bit more color under the chin. Unify that just a little bit. Even though there's a highlight here, I want my major light to be up here and not so much down here. I don't want it to take the viewer's eye away from this look. But I'm making a diagonal here with the light, so I'm going to put just a touch more. And that pumps that diagonal a bit. Emphasizes it a little bit. Let's put a little bit more of this in here. This is Sepia. One thing to be aware of, no matter what you're painting, is the aspect of darks, middles, and lights. So I'm happy to be putting in just a little bit more dark here. Being kind of stingy with that paint, and it's making me lose the gusto of the stroke. That's better. If I wasn't talking to you guys, I'd probably hop up and get a different brush, and this would little bit wider brush would let me do that a little bit more like I would like to. Now I'm going to take some of that off because I think I overdid it. Has that ever happened to you? This is Naples Yellow, and I think I'm going to get some of that out in a minute and put that back in because I like that. Always be aware of your brush stroke. Van Gogh was. It gave us those wonderful currents in the air, the atmosphere. I'm going to stop for a minute and find that Naples Yellow. Be right back. So, as I was saying, I have now gotten a little bit bigger brush. This is a Filbert, a 10 by Monarch, and that's going to let me not be so stingy with the paint. And I'm going to put just a little bit of, this is Terra Rosa. Put just a little bit of that in there. Come in here. I like that much better. Now that's coming along better. It's getting kind of muddy looking, so I might have to go back in when that dries a bit and put a little more oomph in that. Always want oomph, right? Boy, it doesn't take much to really overdo an eye when you're using your big brush. But my motto for myself is always use the biggest brush for the task at hand. That way you don't tickle it to death. That was a phrase my mother had. Don't tickle it to death. Almost got those eyes sort of matching up in size. See if I can shade this just a hair under there. Yes, indeed. Okay, I'm going to let this kind of be it for now, and then when I go to class this next week, I will finish it for the folks down there so they can watch the process. I think this is enough, and I hope you've enjoyed watching, because I've certainly enjoyed painting. Sometimes artists don't get to paint nearly as much as the world thinks they do, because there's so much other stuff you have to do with art. Okay, I keep doodling, don't I? And if I don't watch out, I'm gonna do a little too much. I think I just did a little too much. I didn't mean to define that quite as dramatically as I did. So let's see if we can just soften that a little bit. Well, we're mixing another little color into it. And I see that I have again made him a little older because I took off that this little bit of the highlight. So I'm going to put that back in. And then it's getting kind of late tonight, and I know that I'm going to do all the good stuff that I think I've done if I don't stop. If you start just putting marks on to be putting marks on, you are going to be in real trouble. That's definitely the time to stop and come back another day. Yep, that's where I am right now. Stop. So, hope you've enjoyed this. I've loved doing it. Take care. Happy painting. Bye now.